Alright, hey guys, this is New Sensei. This is a surprise stream. We just had our October live Q&A just a few days ago. That turned out quite well, but I've decided to do a few upgrades. The main thing I did was I grabbed a new webcam. I now have the Logitech C922. Nice investment. Previously I was using the Microsoft Surface Pro 1, and that's got a typical laptop webcam. But I thought I might as well invest in something decent. It's one of those things where you want to, buy something which is really good that you might use, rather than keep on regretting having to make do with really cheap equipment. So I'm not sure exactly what I'll do with this camera or future live streams, but I've got a few things set up. Just gonna change the chat a bit there. Hey guys, welcome. Yeah, well, I'm surprised people are tuning on. Now, this is a completely unannounced video, so I am surprised that people actually jumped in. So I've got quite a few things to talk through here. I'm playing with OBS as well, so I'm still getting used to the setup, but this should work out quite well. Now, being a test live stream, I didn't really have a clear agenda, but I wanted to cover an archery issue which has arisen in the news recently. I was originally planning on doing this as a prepared video, but since we have a new camera, I want to test this new setup and see how this goes. And while I am doing this, I'll happily take questions live a bit later. I'm not going to answer questions right now, but if you are going to ask a question, do tag my name. Use the @ New Sensei, so I'll see it on the feed. Also, super chat is enabled, so if you want to pop up a message, or if you want to just give me a tip because you've been dying to for the last year or so, then feel free to do so. But the thing that I want to talk about, and again, welcome to everybody. I think this is just right for you Europeans. And again, this wasn't an announced live stream, but I want to talk about an issue which has arisen. So as you can probably tell by the title, I'm referring to the Fannie Bay Incident. No, this isn't some kind of foreign invasion of Australia. The Fannie Bay Equestrian Club, which is a horse riding club, about 2 weeks ago, reported a very serious incident, and that's what I want to talk about today, because it doesn't really directly concern us as archers, but it brings the reputation of the sport and archery in general into a very big negative. Now, I will warn you, and Jeremy from France has pointed out same thing, fatal horse shooting, yes. I do want to warn you that what you'll see in this video may be graphic. So if you are averse to seeing bloody injuries on horses, then this may not be for you. So this is what I've got here. I'm just going to grab OBS and I'll show you what I mean. So this is from the Fannie Bay Equestrian Club Facebook page, and this is the incident which happened on 11 October. That's only 2 weeks ago. So what you see here is a horse. Her name is Pearl, and as you can see, she has been shot. Now they've updated the post since to reflect the incidents, but what you see here is basically what it is. So the official post is as follows. This horrible sight greeted one of our young members today when she went to catch her own horse from the paddock at 4 p.m. Pearl, a gentle and well-loved pony who has taught many children to ride and brought happiness to many visitors during her time at FBEC, was found with 2 arrows embedded in her side. The members are shocked and horrified that someone so cruel, evil and stupid. The police have been alerted. I'm just going to be the chat for a bit here. Sorry, guys. The police have been alerted and will be investigating. The arrows may help identify the shooter. However, if you see any unusual behavior or know anyone in the bow hunters clubs, you might spread the word. this idiot is dangerous. And the edit has been that Pearl has been checked by the vet. The internal damage is too great, so she was put down. So Pearl has been buried, and there currently is a memorial fund on my cause to help the club pay for the vet's bills, as well as improve the security of the riding club. So that's there for you. I will leave the link in the description in a moment, but that's what the club is trying to do. Now, this incident has spread, it's gone viral on Facebook, so quite a few people have been made aware of this, and I'm doing my part to echo the fate of Pearl and the plight of the club. Now, there are a few just quick things I want to mention here, because in my original plan video, there are several things that I wanted to highlight. The first one, which is not the most important one now, but I just want to point out that we see this very often when it comes to incidents involving fatal shootings of animals, such as pets or local wildlife. And it's this line here. Every time this happens, the bow hunters or archery clubs get named. So this, I understand the knee-jerk reaction. If someone finds an animal shot with an arrow, then the first port of call is an archery club. And I want to address this right now, because this does not make any actual sense. Okay? The reason why this doesn't make sense to me is these people are not hunters. They're not archers. People can get bows and arrows from anywhere. They can buy from shops, they can buy it online. These people are not the ones who are going to archery clubs. So when you make a call to the general public to ask your local bow hunting club or your local archery club, you are actually weaponizing the masses, the general public, because the general public doesn't know about archery clubs and people with bows who I refuse to call archers. So when you start inadvertently drawing attention to archery clubs, you actually trigger this this animosity, because you have archers and hunters go, hey, it's not us, back off already. And this is a tragic thing to fight over, because the other thing that's unfortunate about this is that quite a few archers and bow hunters have responded to this in a way which I think doesn't promote archery in a positive light. So firstly, if this happens, I'm going to say 100% of the time it is not an archer from an archery club. For the same reason, if somebody gets punched at a nightclub, you don't point your finger at the nearest boxing gym. There's no correlation between the tool used or the incident which took place and a sporting club. Because, look, the sporting club is most likely the safest place for a person to be or an animal to be, because the people at the club are not going to shoot animals. What they do outside, such as hunting for legitimate reasons, is different, but you're not going to find the culprits in the clubs. So there's no point in calling people to inquire about the nearest club. Happened to me a few times as a club president or former club president. If they find an arrow in a house, then they'll call the club and say, well, what did you do? It wasn't us. That's one thing. Now, the other thing that has popped up, and that has really bothered me, is that, and I don't want to scroll to the comments because there's names here and I don't want to name names, but in the comments you see quite a few people call out this picture as photoshopped, and unfortunately it tends to come from hunters. And I understand in a way that, the arrows or the bolts, the crossbow bolts, by the way, you can tell by the half moon knocks, these are not arrows, these are bolts. You can tell these are cheap carbon bolts or even fiberglass bolts which are bought online. And I can understand where some people may be skeptical. So, well, some of the comments have included that it looks photoshopped because there's no blood. and the arrows look like they're been shot from a low angle, so someone's been lying down and they've shot the arrow into the horse, and it just seems implausible, therefore it must be faked. And I find this to be such a bad thing to jump to conclusions. My first reaction is, well, what happened? The question I asked was what happened exactly, because the people who obviously reported the incident aren't fully aware of how these things would have happened, hence the investigation. So it didn't do archery as a sport and as a bow hunting activity any favors when bow hunters just jumped up and say, I'm a bow hunter and this would never happen, there should be blood, the animal should be dead by now and the arrow's too short, that sort of thing. It's been disproven. So that was only a day later. There was video footage. It was covered by ABC News. In fact, we'll look at some of the things here. By the way, this is what, again, really gets to me. A second horse was shot. So the first horse is Pearl, she's a pony, and the second horse is Hollywood, who is a thoroughbred. So you can see here very clearly the arrow wound. So Hollywood survived the shooting, so 2 horses were shot. And that's the wound there, and that's the wound being healed. You can see this particular image, which will load shortly. That's nasty. Now, clearly, it's not a broadhead. Broadheads would do far more damage. I'm not sure about this one, but the ones that were shot through Pearl, if it was a broadhead, yeah, there'll be more blood. And the reason why I'll mention this is, for a field point, it's not that unusual for the arrow to seal the blood in. If you remove the arrow, it'll bleed freely. But if the arrow stays inside, then it's not going to bleed openly. Whereas this is more of the sort of wound which clearly would have happened. The arrow did fall out at some point, so this is found a day later. And again, just the tragedy that's involved here, just the heartlessness of someone shooting horses in a paddock, and the owners don't know. That's disgusting. So that's just really I don't know. I can't comment more than this. It's unbelievable that somebody it's that much of a psychopath that they'll be going to helpless animals in a paddock and shooting them with a crossbow. Now, I want to just quickly show you the ABC News report. And again, if this was not a legitimate incident, and this is why I'm just so sad to see bow hunters jump to the wrong conclusion, then you wouldn't really see something like this. I mean, this is ABC News. This is a national news network. I'm not going to see the whole thing, but no, actually, we'll go full size, hopefully. Okay, that works.
She kind of basically taught us how to ride, and that was really special.
I cantered my first time on her and cantered bareback and learned to jump on her.
Yeah.
She was very special.
Who does that to a defenseless animal? What sort of sicko does that?
Concerned that perhaps this was a shot that didn't go according to plan. I don't know. I'm just very grateful that he didn't get hurt while he was out there with poor old Pearl.
And it covers other animal incidents nearby as well. So clearly this wasn't the first time. But one of the things to consider is that, well, and by the way, you're right, crossbows are illegal. And what actually happened, and I can't find a link to the news report, but it has been reported by Fannie Bay. The perpetrator has handed himself in. The perpetrator was a 17-year-old kid. He did have a license, so he did buy a bow, and the first thing he did was he shot and killed a pony, and nearly killed a second horse as well. So I'm not gonna bring it up because that's not the role of this video, that's not the purpose of this video, but it was a 17-year-old kid who handed himself into police, and it was quickly found that he was responsible for shooting these horses. And I'll say again, this is a 17-year-old kid. I'll just let it sink in. All right, and I know you can say a lot about the justice system and how, as a juvenile, he's going to be slapped on the wrist, and I think that's what happened. I think that considering that I'm looking at the more recent post by Fannie Bay, that's Pearl's burial, and that's, you know, just watching the scenes is just it's not a pleasant feeling, to say the least. Yeah, so that's the news. You can follow Fannie Bay's Facebook page, and that's the link to the fundraiser, which you'll see here. And I might grab that in the I'll put in the description right now, in fact. So for those who are following, you can have a look yourself. So yeah, what else can I say? It's a very sad thing to see. And again, it puts a lot of things into question about, firstly, the role of bows and crossbows in society today, and especially in Australia, crossbows are a restricted weapon. You need, depending on the state you're in, but some states it basically requires a firearms license, others not so much. But it is a weapon in Australia, and you need special provision to own one. And the second thing, of course, is as archers, while, you know, we can disassociate ourselves from incidents like this, but every time this happens, the general public will point fingers at you, and they'll question you, and they'll kind of get your opinion. And because archery is not such a common thing anymore, there are so many misconceptions about the lethality of arrows and who's using them. And again, the people who are doing this are not archers. So just to quickly gloss over a couple more things, and you can see again, the interviews, and then I believe the member for Goiter, which is the area for around Darwin, has spoken up about making changes to laws and punishments. Hollywood, by the way, is recovering, so you can see videos of Hollywood enjoying himself. So the rehabilitation is good, which is a great sign. And this is an interesting news item in the local newspaper. What happened here was an American criminal profiler basically predicted the age and motive of the perpetrator without any information about who he was. Just from the evidence that was presented, he guessed that it was someone just between 17 and 23, and was basically a psychopath, and that was actually the case. Yep, so there's more pictures there, and this is the article or the comment which was raised by Ketia Purik, who is the local member. So during parliamentary sittings this week, I spoke on the heinous crime of shooting 2 horses at East Point rather, horse facility by 2 low-life scumbags. I thought it was 1, but apparently it's 2. I might have missed the news report. And I've written to the Attorney General seeking government's view on amendments to both the animal welfare and youth justice, such that this deranged and evil person does not get sent to youth diversion, rather gets punishment within his crime. If you want to help me get changes, please send an email to the Chief Minister and Attorney General via these emails, urging them to make changes and have these horse murders punished appropriately. And there's the emails for the important people in the Northern Territory who are responsible for this sort of thing here. So there are a lot of things, but yeah, that is the situation as of a day ago, or even 5 hours ago. So for those who are just joining us, there's the summary. The executive summary is local riding club loses a horse to a rogue psychopathic crossbow user, and a second horse was shot but is recovering. And yeah, that is something which I wanted to share a few weeks ago. I haven't had time to cover it properly. I was planning a detailed video, but that's basically what I wanted to talk about. And I just wanted to use this chance to show, firstly test my webcam, but also to share this in a live discussion. And again, it's the sort of thing that, you know, animals get shot everywhere. Not like hunting, but in terms of animals that shouldn't be shot, horses, pets, and so on. And every now and then it brings archery back into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. And I'll make the same statement as I did in my animal cruelty video. This isn't archery. we don't practice on live animals. We don't walk around and shoot animals in paddocks or cages. Archery, for the most part, for most people, is a sport. And archery is something that we do for fun. We train in archery, we do competitions, we don't go around and shoot helpless animals. And for those who do hunt, every bow hunter I know and I've spoken to is a legitimate, I won't say it's necessarily animal loving. They do love animals, but the animals they hunt for a reason. It's purposeful, it's not wasteful. They harvest the animals for the food and other parts. It's not a sport style of hunting. And again, for those who are into trophy hunting, I think that's where the line is very clearly drawn. People who bow hunt do so for a clear purpose. People who trophy hunt do so for fun. And legally, there are question marks around the world, but just be very clear that just because an animal has been shot with an arrow doesn't mean it involves an archer. And every archer should quickly and most definitely distance themselves from these people who own bows. And just because you own a bow doesn't mean you're an archer. Okay, so that's my my very quick coverage. If you have any questions about this incident, or you have any questions for me in general, feel free to post in the comments. Tag New Sensei so I can see it clearly on the screen, or give me a tip. But yeah, this was mostly an experiment with a new webcam. I think it looks really good, by the way. It is a 1080p webcam. Again, this is the Logitech C922, the newest version. I was experimenting with background removal. It does come with the virtual background removal, so those who don't have a green screen can play around with that. I don't have it enabled right now. I've been playing around with it. It's an interesting function. I don't think it didn't suit this particular video, but in future I might have some fun with it for live streams later. I'm also happy to take suggestions for live streams. Again, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with the live streams, but they're pretty fun to do. We can catch, I think, most people from around the world, whether it might be a regular monthly or it might be like, I still want to do my end of month Q&A. But I might be interested in doing something like half of the month. Maybe it's a casual discussion, because normally Q&As, people submit questions, and I'll answer them. I'll take more questions. But I'm thinking that maybe there's a topic you might want to cover, or it might be a casual thing where, you know, my club life or so my training routine, I'll bring something up and I'll have a live chat with you guys. And especially if there's quite a lot of you watching, then it's something we can probably exchange knowledge and share things together. There aren't many opportunities for many people to exchange the experience and knowledge that archery really benefits from. So this is one of those avenues. So I'm gonna let the chat go for a couple of minutes. I think this has worked fairly well. The camera's beautiful, by the way. That's extremely clear. This can go to 60 FPS, although there might be overkill for a live stream. I've got it to 30 right now, just to match everything else. And I'm going to hang with OBS, so no more transposition my Surface Pro to like angle a certain way. I do have everything set up correctly, so microphone is here. My microphone's here rather. Camera's there. I think the audio should be okay. I've played around just a bit. It wasn't that bad last time, but it seems to be working okay. If there's any problem, just let me know, and I'll try and figure it out as we go along. I'm going to start scrolling through chat now. You can see, by the way, chat is currently on that side of the screen. Am I pointing the right way here? Yep. So yeah, I'm learning to use the overlays and sort of thing, and hopefully this should be more engaging. I'm not sure what else I might pop up. I don't know, a logo or a donation. I don't care. I'm not really in it for the money, but it's just fun to do these. And now for the technology, you know, why not? I grew up in a very conservative spending family, so we're very stingy on things. I earn far more money now than I actually use for myself, so I find it a waste to kind of hang on to money and not use it. I'm one of those people who believe that the definition of money, like money's value, is in circulation. Actually, I wouldn't mind having I think one of my ideas is basically have a talk session with you guys, whether it's teaching or philosophy or something else. Like, one of my plans on my channel was to talk about other things in lifestyle and other topics, and I haven't had time to actually make something. I'm not sure what I'll make, but I might have just casual talk sessions and just what's on my mind. I'll take Q&A questions. But yeah, one of the things that what I grew up with was that yeah, we were just way too stingy, and money should be circulated. That means you use money, otherwise it has no value. If you have like $1 million but you don't spend it, then it's worth nothing. So anyway, let's go through some questions. Again, but the point was that I've bought equipment which I want to use. The new camera, I bought the microphone ages ago, but did buy this thing, which is very useful. And now I have the camera. So where are we? Welcome to those people who joined from the US. I know it's very early or late for you guys. This wasn't meant to be an American live stream, because I know the Europeans had a great time last time. But I will try to vary my times a bit more. So let's go through, and again, feel free to tag my name so I can spot when you were asking me questions. So there's quite a few comments here. People are are covering quite a few things which I've mentioned already. And I'm just going to try and grab the questions. The question so far seems to be... the one question comes from Sasha HD. Welcome to Archery, by the way. Glad you're finding archery fun, and glad you're finding my videos helpful. The question from Sasha. So what's a good score out of 300 for a beginner recurve? That depends on how far you're shooting. I'm imagining you're shooting 10 meters, and you're shooting bare bow, and you're scoring out of 300. Then look, 200 is a good score. It depends on your target face as well. If you're shooting the very big target face, then yeah, I expect for a beginner, if you can exceed like 200 out of 300, you're doing all right. I think any experienced shooter, even in bare bow, shooting at 10 meters for a huge target face, or even a 80 centimeter target face, should be able to get a perfect score. This may seem like a very high standard, but 10 meters is very close distance. I'm not exaggerating when I say that the experienced archers can probably score 290 plus with their eyes closed. It's our practice warm-up distance. We actually do that. We shoot with our eyes closed as warm-up. But yeah, 300 should be achievable for an experienced archer. But for a beginner, shooting, let's say 10 meters with bare bow, then I recommend you probably go for about 200. And I think 250 might be a good benchmark for like expert level. But again, it's all beginner level, so it's a little blown up proportion for 10 meters. Ryan C, I guess. How do I use finger loops on a self bow? I'm not sure what you're referring to, honestly. I'm not too familiar with self bows and primitive bows. I'm not sure what finger loops are exactly, so I can't actually help you on that one, unfortunately. Let's see. Do a do yourself bowstring video. That's actually not a bad idea. Now that I have the camera, I can live stream a video making a string. Actually, one of my ideas for my 60-year archery anniversary was to live stream a video of making a bowstring. That said, I don't have my gear here right now. I can't do it. Because my first bowstring I sent to one of my viewers in Victoria, Matt Toffelin. He had my first, the first string I ever made and sent out was his, and I thought it'd be nice to send him another one as a milestone, one that's probably better than what I made before. I might still do that. Live stream's not bad because bowstrings take a long time to make. 20 minutes if not distracted, but it's something which is a great example of something you can live stream, and especially with this camera, it's gonna be beautiful. JCube Media Services, what the webcam specs you have now. I don't have it here right now with me, but just check out the Logitech C922. It's a 1080p camera. It can run 30 frames per second on 1080p, or it runs 60 frames per second on 720p. And if you're using the, it uses the Chrome Cam software. Chrome Cam is what removes the background. So if you're doing the virtual background removal, you can only run on 30 FPS. You probably wouldn't do it if you're playing games or something, because it's very CPU intensive. But if doing things like this talking thing, or I want a background behind me, then I'll probably use that. I'll play around with that a bit later. Min Archer, and by the way, tag me. I'm finding a hard time finding things. Just tag my name, I can see very clearly. Min Archer, I'm a Korean archer. Do you have a Korean bow? Not yet. I do have a Chinese style Qing bow. That was from Mandarin Duck. I got 2 bows from Mandarin Duck. One was the Phantom. The other one was the Qing bow, which is the 25-pound bow. I want to eventually go into the Asian styles of archery, so Korean, Chinese, Mongolian, and so on. So I got a light bow to start with. I haven't started using it yet because I've just regained my club, so I have a place to shoot. But that's something which I want to use eventually. I had earmarked a Korean bow from a shop which offered to import one for me. I'm not sure what happened to the shop. I've heard that it closed down or something. It was a very busy shop, but now it's closed down. So I'm not sure about the fate of that one. But that's something I eventually would like to get. Scape Nation, are you as rich as Donald Trump? I am richer. I'm a richer person in morals. Let's leave it there. Let's see. Oh, more questions. Lovely. I like getting questions. Let's see. No, Jacob Mia, no decent videos on bowstrings. I have 3 videos on bowstrings, by the way. This is from David Bastian. I've made like 7 bowstring videos. Like, check out my like, search up like how to make a bowstring, you'll find me. I've talked about all the materials, every piece of equipment you need for making bowstrings, and I've demonstrated how to do single color, 2 color, and 3 color. So I've done it already. Even on live streaming, sure, but live streaming takes a long time for a multicolor string, and I've already made it. Escape Nation again. Have you had archery girlfriends from the club? No. One of the funny things of archery is that a lot of guys wouldn't mind picking up girls at clubs. But the amount of females in archery is quite low. Sport in general, but female participants in archery clubs is very low. I estimate, I think from the state level, it's about like 10% at state level. And you think, well, there are quite a few females who do archery, but the ratio is very lopsided. And one of the difficulties we've had as a club is that over the next few months, there's been discussion on having mandatory representation. So you need females in your club board, full stop. And the problem is that, well, we don't really have female members. We have like 1 or 2. So it's really hard for a club to actually have a female and not look like you're being a tokenist. And that's a little hard. I have no distinction between male and female. Like, I judge based on merit and ability, not gender. But as a legal thing, it's a little tricky there. But no, I've had no archery girlfriends. That would be cool. But yeah, no comment. Let's see. Rob Smith, new sensei. I'm using 1916s on a 32-pound recurve. I'm getting light fletching marks on the shelf. What can I do about it? The having marks on the shelf normally indicates the bow's out of tune. So I just lost my point there. Whee, sorry. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, yeah, so the question from Rob Smith was, yeah, what do you do with streaks? As a beginner, don't worry about it too much. If you just bought your arrows, very likely they're going to be out of tune. Because your first set of arrows will be a close enough match. To solve the problem of having streaks, you need to do some fine tuning. So you need some bare shaft. You need 1 bare shaft arrow or a couple, and do bare shaft tuning. I've done a video on bare shaft tuning already, but you can find out different sources, and that will help diagnose what needs to be done to make your bow more in tune. You might have to change your draw weight. You may have to change your arrows, or there might be a problem with your configuration, so your center shot might be off. But normally, streaks means your bow's out of tune. Exactly why? You need to diagnose that. Ryan C. Finger slings, not finger rings. Okay, that makes more sense. Finger slings are like you don't need to use it for a primitive bow. Like there are a lot of techniques which involve just holding the bow. Like you do think about like turkey archery, the katra. You allow the bow to torque and spin, and you retain the bow by having like one finger around it. Yeah, that works fine. I mean, people shot bows for centuries without finger slings, so sure you can too. If you want to, just make a finger sling and just wrap it around your fingers. It's a bit weird because it's kind of ahistorical, and again, you don't really need to use it in my opinion, unless you're like doing some really fine competitive target shooting with primitive. Then otherwise you don't really need it. That's completely fine. Scape Nation, I mentioned this. Old school. I used to play Runescape. Oh my goodness. Oh man. I don't play it anymore. Like, obviously, old school Runescape is the current name for what was Runescape. But I played Runescape back then. I didn't play much of it, but back in school, it was Runescape, or was it Adventure Quest? The browser games. Goodness there. Acid Sten, hi Sten, can I do a compound bow review? If I have one, yeah, sure. I was offered to review a couple of bows from Toe Point Archery, the ones in the club right now. I chose not to, one because I didn't have time to play around with bows. Secondly, I'm not a compound shooter. Eventually I'll go to compound, but for the time being, I'm going to stick to recurve. And you know, if I get a compound, I can't judge a compound very well. All I can say is it's a compound, it shoots straight. Eventually I'll explore that in more detail. DIY man, how do you manage shooting with specs? I don't have a problem with specs. I know some people have trouble sighting with with glasses, and some I know personally I sometimes kind of smack my frame, but most of my draws are quite low anyway, so I actually have never had a problem with shooting with glasses. So if you have a specific problem with glasses, you might want to ask that question so I can kind of address that. I've had several people in my Q&As raise several different questions, but in general, I don't really have a problem with glasses at all. So I don't actually know what the problem is. I can get my sight picture just fine. The alignment's not a problem. Kenny Long asks, what's my job? I'm pretty sure I've said this about 23 times now. I'm a high school teacher. I teach English and I teach history. That's my actual job. Lily Flynn, what bow do you use mostly and what do you prefer? I am an Olympic style archer, so I use my Win Inno CXT. That's my primary bow. The other bows are either practice bows or fun bows. So when I just want to have fun, I'll bring out the Bear takedown recurve. Beautiful bow, absolutely amazing bow, and of course owned by an amazing person. That's my shout out to Grizzly Jim there. Yeah, that's my fun bow, but my the bow which I train with is the Win Inno CXT. That's my preferred discipline. Jack Illis, is drawing 60 pounds plus considered advanced? I will challenge the definition of advanced. Advanced should be a skill measurement, not a strength measurement. 60 pounds is simply a matter of how strong you are. What counts as advanced is how well you shoot. An advanced shooter can very well shoot a 25-pound bow or 30-pound bow. If you're looking at competitive levels, then a 35-pound recurve or a 40-pound recurve is enough to shoot 70 meters. And if you score high, then that's your advanced level. So advanced is more of a technical thing, not a strength thing. I would only recommend 60-pound plus for people who do have experience and have the conditioning, but it doesn't mean you're advanced. So that's something I would question. Sasha again, are there any good archery stores in Melbourne? Are there any stores in Melbourne full stop? There are two really popular ones. One is Urban Archery up in Somerton, and the second one is less than an archery store, more of a general store. It's Oz Hunting and Bows in Oakley. The third store I mentioned is Planet Archery, which is an archery specific store that is affiliated with Oz Hunting and Bows. That is in Cheltenham, right next to the Moorabbin DFO and right next to the AIM Archery Club on Cheltenham. So those are the three main. There are other smaller suppliers and shops which order things in for you. There's Maverick Archery in Sindel, which has changed owners recently. And there are other Australian stores which are very popular. In South Australia, we've got Archery Supplies and Pat's Archery, and up in Brisbane and Sydney, we've got Abbey Archery. But most people I know either buy in store or buy online. I buy online for most of my gear, but the new archers buy in store. Those are the Melbourne shops and the Australian shops. Harry Tang. A question about young archers. I'm an instructor from Hong Kong. I find the kids always curve the lower back too much when shooting. Okay, this is a form fault which I wanted to cover specifically in the video at some point. Yeah, the arching back is a very common form fault, not just in kids, but in all beginners. Now, the reason why this happens is it's usually a lack of upper body strength. So what often happens is they will kind of pull the bow back, and because they don't have the they think it's an arm thing, they don't have the back tension engagement, and you can't teach a new shooter with very weak upper body to use back tension. The brain will tell them to deform their body. So you see the shoulder rise, you'll see the back arching. It gets really odd, and that can be dangerous. Of course, you can get injured from doing that sort of thing. So there are, for young children and for all learners, I use a few small trigger words to help remind them. So if arching the back is a big problem, then I'll tell them to tuck their stomach in and push their bum out. So that kind of fixes the problem. So I'll try and lean back here. So the natural thing is you kind of puff the chest out and you have this kind of really big chest coming out. That's not going to work for you in archery. So stomach in, tuck your stomach in, push your bum out, and or tuck your bum in rather. So bum in, stomach in, that gets you more in line. So that helps people remind themselves to use the right technique. And again, it's something which, if it's a strength thing, you might want to give them lighter bows if possible. If you have like 20-pound bows and you're teaching young kids, that's actually a bit too high sometimes. I've run archery sessions with my own high school, and I teach Year 7 kids. They're like 12 or 13 years old, and the boys and the girls especially don't handle it very well. So even a light bow, like a 15-pound bow, may be too much. And because of that, they will distort their body to try to use it. But a lot of children aren't focused on technique. They just want to hit the gold, so they do whatever it takes to do it, and they don't pay attention to technique. So if you're training them, give them simple prompts: stomach in, bum in, and that's your back straightness. Jonathan, have you done a video on paper tuning? People don't do, I haven't, by the way. For recurve, paper tuning isn't very popular. It can be done. It's more for compound though. Recurves tend to do more bare bow tuning. As far as adjusting the plunger, my coach tells me this, and I do agree. Plunger adjustment is more for fine tuning. Once you get your center shot, you probably don't want to touch the plunger again, because that can really throw things off. So if you need to get just the right amount of tension or clearance, then the plunger is an option. I wouldn't recommend that you touch the plunger for tuning unless you have to. Most causes of bow clearance issues are to deal with draw weight, spine, and center shot. Once you do center shot, the rest should be okay. You shouldn't touch the plunger much. There's a video I watched a while ago where someone recommended that you adjust the plunger to fix windage, and to me that's I've never seen it done before. You normally touch the sight for windage, you don't touch the plunger for windage. The plunger I recommend you don't touch as much as possible. Back to Escape Nation. You have around 35% girls at the clubs in England. It is, I think the bigger the club, and the more females there already are, the more likely more females will join. Because we're a very small club with around like 20 to 30 people, we kind of have a very hard time getting critical mass. I mean, we have some females who turn up and want to shoot, but don't want to commit to archery. And yeah, it's when there are no other females at the club, it's hard to attract more females. And same with young kids. If there are like 5 or 6 people the same age as you, then you're more likely to stay. But if you're the only one, then it's very hard to have an appeal to that. Stream old school RuneScape. No, I'm not gonna stream. I wouldn't mind streaming a game every now and then. I'm not sure what I'll do, but that's something we can do. That takes time though. Remember, I'm a teacher. I should be marking like essays right now, and I've got like 2 classes worth to do, but I'm not doing it right now. I don't want to like stream and mark essays. As much as it'd be fun to talk about that, I would not get anything done. I'll leave my marital status quiet for now. You can probably guess, given how much time I have, but I won't talk about my my lack of marriage or love life. Where are we? Mirko, hello. I'm planning to buy new limbs. What do you think of Win Inno or Wiawis? They're great limbs, full stop. Which one do I recommend? They kind of perform similarly, so whatever your budget wants. The Wiawis are the current limbs. They're probably made the best now. The Inno series are being phased out, so I recommend you get the Wiawis limbs if possible. But there's nothing wrong with the Inno EX limbs. They're beautiful limbs. I use them. They're great limbs. What from Jeremy Saint Marie? What do you think about to make my own arrows and make your own string? You don't need to make your own gear. It feels nice when you make your own arrows and things work, and same with your string. There's a lot of pride involved, but you don't need to do so to be a good archer. They're separate things, you know. It's like you don't. Technique and skill are different from manufacturing or crafting. They're separate things. But if you want to do it, you know, do so. It's great. Let's see. Oh, the other thing with compound, just come back to Sten here. The thing with compound, which I get a little bothered about, is that it has to be set up for you. So I need a compound which I can shoot myself. I don't want to play around with draw length and muck around people's settings, because compounds are very delicate creatures. They're set for one person to shoot exceptionally well, and not for someone else to randomly play around with. That's why I don't want to use one. Eventually, I will. Kaylin Bayer, good question. What does putting recurve on a bow actually do? The recurve, the curve on the bow basically makes it more efficient. So you can generate more velocity for a lower draw weight. This is simplifying things a lot. I'm not explaining it physically, but if I have, say, a self bow or a long bow, so let's take an English longbow and we compare it to, say, a Mongo composite horsebow, the longbow isn't going to be that much more powerful than a Mongo horsebow. So basically, if you have a straight stick, you're going to need a very heavy draw weight to achieve what a more compact composite bow or recurve bow can accomplish for a lower draw weight. So it's a lot more efficient, and that's why the recurve is kind of standard these days. It's more efficient given the materials, and it kind of basically launches the arrow faster than a longbow. That's a very simple version. Don't quote me on this, but if you want to understand why recurves are the standard and not longbows, recurves just work better for flinging arrows. That's why it's done. Hi, Euphrates, welcome back again. I've seen you quite a few times in chat, and it's nice that you are following. Question from Lily Flynn: how old am I? I'm 17. No, I am in my 30s now. Exactly how old, I'll leave you to guess, but I'm now in my 30s. I'm Asian, so we don't age very well until around like 60. Then we become like, you know, the older kind of kung fu masters. David Bastion again. I'm trying to find the questions here. You've right, I've missed the question. Not sure what it was. What will we buy the first arrow? I'm not sure the question is. You might want to clarify the question a bit later on. David Bastion again. For a beginner at the club, what do you think they could do there, or when do you think they can do the first competition? First competition as soon as possible. Don't worry about being good enough. You will only exceed your personal best if you have a personal best. As soon as you can, do your first comp. It's a milestone. All right. It's like you can't decide when should I do my first swimming competition. It's more about jump into the pool already. Just do it. I recommend as soon as possible. It's not about doing your best. It is about doing your best. It's not about trying to beat people. And even at pro level, it's not about coming first or second or 10th. It's about shooting your best. As soon as you feel comfortable shooting your best, do it. Do your first comp as soon as possible. Some people do it within 3 weeks. They'll shoot terribly, but who cares? They're having fun. They're getting scores. And the next few weeks, they will grow very quickly. People who do competition sooner will find themselves more motivated. They have goals to beat. They have the hunger. They want to shoot at more competitions. The people who are a bit too afraid to compete because they're kind of anxious or they're nervous or they don't feel confident about their form, they will not develop. I've seen so many archers at my very small club who just don't want to compete at all, and they experience zero growth over 5 or 6 years. Zero growth. They shoot the same they did in the first day. Not saying everyone does this, but you can break through that barrier. Yuvraj, why do professional archers down the bow or drop the bow after releasing the arrow? I've done a video on that. Check it out. That was like 2 weeks ago. So check out my video on why Olympic archers drop the bow. I've already covered that question. Let's see. Yeah, plunger adjustments. I don't touch the plunger adjustments. It's complex. And I've run out of questions. Great. Where do I live? Australia. That's all you need to know, really. Melbourne, I say most of the time. How do limb savers work? Limb savers basically absorb more of the shock. They're basically like rubber pads on the inside of the limb. So if you find that the string slaps the limb too hard, then limb saver attaches onto the limb and it gives you a bit more shock absorption. Most bows don't need it, but if you feel that there's a bit too much contact, violent contact with the limb, then you might want to do that. Do I know Moorabbin Archery Club? Very well. I've been there quite a few times. I go there very often, same as Sasha. Yeah, now I go to Moorabbin often, usually for competitions, occasionally for workshops and seminars when they're running things. And Moorabbin always kind of call me back to just drop by and have a shot. The problem is that I live on the opposite side of town. I'm on the west side, and Moorabbin's on the east side. So I can't go. I mean, I know Moorabbin's open like 7 days. I can't go after work. Let's say I finish work at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. I have to go across town, and yeah, I have to. Yeah, by the time I get there, it's like 6:30 or something. So it's not worth my time. I prefer shooting. I mean, my club is right next to my school, so I can just like walk over and shoot for like 3 or 4 hours if I want to. Whereas driving across town, it might be a better environment for coaching and getting some arrow volume in, but it's just hard for me to make the commitment. If I do shoot somewhere else, it'd be at Werribee, because it's still on my side of town, but still kind of far away. Occasionally, Werribee organises, and in summer they do twilight shoots because they have a very long daylight, so we'll shoot around in the afternoon and the evening. But I prefer training at my club where possible. I might be missing a coach now, but at least I have time to shoot. Traveling is quite stressful and time consuming, like literally. Escape Nation, Nigerian Prince. Ah, yes. Well, one of the things I've done with my class, I teach English and we do persuasive language. And one of the things I've done is I've actually opened my inbox, copied a Nigerian scam, and I've given it to my students to analyze and try to convince why do people get sucked into Nigerian scams? A little fun activity there. Yeah, hi random Ewok, you are random and you're probably not an Ewok. Yeah, you saw in Bergonomics. Yeah, Bergonomics is not play. I mean, but speaking of Bergonomics, like recently I've been checking out a lot of the food areas near my club and near my school, because I don't normally eat a lot of a variety of things. I normally, if I train, I'm probably chowing down some Burger King or KFC or something, whatever's convenient, or the local Asian restaurants. I've been checking out food trucks. If you follow my Facebook page, I've been checking out some food trucks, and some of them are, because the people who run food trucks are very passionate about what they do, and it's kind of fun experimenting with new food trucks. So I've been checking out Hot Dog Hustle recently. I just checked out Poke Time. That was delicious, by the way. It was Japanese chicken katsu with the Hawaiian salad. So you had some sushi rice, and you had a lot of crunchy lettuce and corn, and it was beautiful, very crunchy. And this Thursday, there's the Art of Fried Chicken. They've been around for quite a while, but they're joined the same spot now. So I'm definitely going to check out some stuff tomorrow night. I mean, Thursday night's just going to be so much more interesting. So that'd be pretty cool. Hi, Morton, what's happening? Well, I just, half an hour ago, we covered an incident with Fannie Bay Equestrian Club, and the horse has been shot, and I'm testing my new camera. That's basically what's happening. Ninja O'Doom, what's your favorite historical event? Wow, that's a very, very broad question. I don't think about it that way. And in fact, in general, I don't find I don't have favorites. I just like things. Whether I like it or I don't like it, I don't have favorites. So I can't name a specific historical event. And I guess because I don't have a personal relation to a historical event, it's kind of hard to say, well, this is what happened in history, and I think it's my favorite one. It has to be something I have a personal attachment to, or I've personally experienced. I mean, I guess for me, like, what historical event have I lived through that kind of really sticks out to me? I guess, I mean, the hallmark for our generation would be 9/11. I mean, I'm not American, I wasn't in America, but that's the hallmark, that's like the defining moment. It's kind of like, it's like it's like the epoch, the start of a new era. You have post 9/11 world. So I think that, to me, wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's probably the thing in my mind the most right now, having been alive at this period. From Carl, am I shooting on the Cup Day Rabbit? I didn't intend to, actually. I am juggling whether or not I want to shoot the Monash Trophy at Waverley City Archers, because I always shoot that, but I'm so out of practice that I'm kind of like, well, do I really want to? We have just recently organised our club championship, so that's a very short round. It's a Horsham, which is a 40-meter round. It goes like, what, 30, 25 or something. It's a ridiculously short round, but we have so many new archers in the club that we archers are more likely to shoot a shorter distance with longer arrows than shooting longer distance. So anything past like 40 meters, literally nobody except for like 2 people at the club have actually done. So we want to make the club championship accessible for our members. So I don't really plan to shoot the Cup Day thing, although now that you've mentioned it, I'll think about that. I reckon I'll get like James or David harassing me to say, hey, come to the club, shoot a tournament. That'd be funny if we did that. I think I've run out. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's basically it. Do I like cats? I'm not a pet person. I'm not really an animal person. If I had to choose one animal, it'd be birds. But if I had to choose between cats and dogs, I'm more of a cat person. But yeah, I'm a bit ambivalent about animals. That's the sort of person I am. I love animals, but I don't feel an attachment, because I didn't grow up with animals. My family didn't have pets, so I've kind of largely lived without that attachment. And yes, yes, Polyventrous, I've made a habit of calling Soviet tanks Soviet tanks. There are Soviet tanks, of course. I mean, the Soviet Union ended in 1991. Most people call it Russian because it's a Russian game and Russian bias, and that's a common parlance. But you're right, it's more correct to say the Soviet Union Soviet tanks. Bit of fun there. By the way, I am kind of planning to to, I think, retire from War Thunder. I've got every vehicle in the game now, and I'm finding it unfun because I'm at high tier. You get a lot of imbalance of shells and other things that I find it to be less enjoyable. I play a low tier every now and then, and I'm gonna spin around, have fun. But high tier is getting a little meh. And I think lastly, I'm starving, by the way. It's nearly 9 o'clock. I haven't eaten dinner yet. But where was I? Jeremy, I'm a history teacher and an archer, a perfect match for Lars Anderson. Yeah, like the funny thing with Lars Anderson is that I don't have a problem with Lars Anderson and his skill shots. I think he's a fantastic shooter. I think that what he does is what archery needs. We need some entertainment. We need people doing exciting new things. And of course, the main thing that I pick up is not his skill, but his technical and historical information. And as someone who has an interest in history, I believe I have a full right to talk about that. And people always just jump in and say, "Oh, you're just jealous and you're wrong and he's right." No, part of historical debate is having debate, so I'm open to being wrong, and so should he. And Lars hasn't really come back and argued. He's actually listened to feedback. He's taken it nicely, and as long as we remain civil, I don't see why not. I think that's one of the benefits of having multiple people on YouTube covering this topic. I mean, I look very fondly on the humor community because you have a lot of big names. You have, Scholar Gladiatoria, you have Shadowversity, you've got Metatron, Thane Thran, and several others, and they bounce lots of ideas off each other, which is why there's a lot of support. Archery lacks that. I think the thing I miss most about Archery is that we don't have like a big 3 or a big 5. Trad Archery is a lot more established. We have, of course, Grizzly Jim, who is working, who used to work for Merlin Archery, and now he's back to his old channel, Archery Adventures. We used to have Grey Archer, who has gone off the radar now, and Jeff Kavanagh is still active. So Jeff Kavanagh and Grizzly Jim were the main channels when I was around, and Grey Archer. Since then, things have changed a lot. Now I'm the big channel, inadvertently. But yeah, now we see a few others. We see Greg from 3D Archery occasionally making things. We see a few others who are starting out, which are looking really good. I'm blanking out a bit here, trying to remember who I used to watch, because I want to see regular content from other people. So the more people who make videos, the better. And yeah, I feel that I shouldn't be the only one doing this. Anything else here? Is Lars my hero? It's not my hero. I respect him as a person, as someone who is very passionate about what he does. I respect passion, and honestly, like as a person, I used to struggle, and I still do. I struggle with passion. My passion is learning, so being a teacher makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I find that, especially in archery, I often find I lack passion in archery, so that's why I question at times whether it's my calling. I don't think it is. I think I've adopted archery as my passion, but it isn't my natural passion. Which archer I'm most inspired by? Again, because I didn't grow up in an archery environment, I don't really have a hero for archery. I am drawn by people who are motivated and are passionate. I don't have one particular person that I look up to in archery. Let's see. Andy, I get quite excited about the new win carbon bows. The TFD is what I'm thinking about here. Do I shoot better with a really high-end bow, or is it just look and feel? You do shoot better. It's when you start out, you don't notice how much difference it makes because you just generally suck. So you don't notice the difference between a high-end bow and a low-end bow. But once you have experience, you start noticing what the bow does for you. That's why when I first started archery, I couldn't really tell why a high-end carbon bow was good. And now I review bows and compare them. You can feel the torque, you can feel the balance, And look, in the shoot off, we had the Win TFT versus the Toe Point R2, and this is like a $2,000 apart, and you can definitely feel the difference. Again, a good archer can make the most of a bad tool, but a bad archer can't make the most of a good tool. It does make a difference, and if you combine a good archer with good gear, the scores will skyrocket. A bad archer with good gear will still shoot badly. So good gear will make a good archer shoot better. Oh yeah, Jimmy Blackman used to be really good. Yeah, he hasn't made videos lately, but Jimmy Blackman is really good. Definitely recommend him if you're looking at trad shooting. Question from Kayla: do I have any issues with counsel for blank butt shooting at home for practice? No, I actually don't do much shooting at home anyway. But the councils have no say or influence on what you do in your private property. If the neighbors complain about it, that's different. But the council does control what you do at home. Unless you're being a public nuisance or being a public threat, there shouldn't be a problem shooting at home. Even blank butt shooting, there shouldn't be an issue there. The council doesn't know about it. That's the thing. And then they don't need to know about it. Okay, have I shot a crossbow? No, I haven't. Again, crossbows are restricted weapons, and the whole point of this video originally was to talk about the Fannie Bay Incident, where crossbows are obviously a weapon. So I don't want to touch a crossbow. Yeah, I haven't shot a crossbow. It's very hard to come across. I mean, because crossbows are weapons, clubs need certain provisions to have crossbows, and most clubs don't allow crossbows because of the provision for weapons. It's kind of like you have like firearms. Like you need very strict rules on where the ammunition is stored and who holds the firearm and what happens when they're not being used. And crossbows have the same. They have the same provisions, and it's a pain for clubs to say, oh, we'll allow crossbows, but you need a locker, you need... It's too much for a small club to do. It's unfortunate because, of course, you know, World Archery and other archery associations want to increase the crossbow discipline, but it's too much trouble for most clubs to cater for. I haven't shot compound, so I'm not sure if I want to give compound another try. I haven't done compound before, so I would like to one day. Not my thing, but I would like to. SF Premium, that's the one SF bow which I'm missing right now. I know someone who has one, but I might do so. I've shot the premium before. The premium is, I don't know, it doesn't feel that good to me. It's definitely not a Forge Plus. The Forge Plus is the high-end one, and the Velocity is what used to be the highest end. Right now, it's not made anymore. I mean, you have the Axiom, then the Premium, then the Forge Plus. The Premium feels like halfway between Forge Plus and the Axiom. I know someone who had one. I might borrow if I can. But, yeah, if I do, sure. But not the most demanded bow right now. What do I recommend for limbs going up from SF Elites? Doesn't really matter, really. I don't have a limb recommendation. Like, for me, I go low until I get to my final draw weight. Then I'll splurge on a very good limb. A good carbon limb or very high quality wood limb. So yeah, if you can afford decent limbs, go for it. SF Elites aren't bad. I mean, like kind of mid-level limbs. But yeah, I'd go top end, like you know, the Win limbs or the Hoyt limbs. Let's see. Fatty Patty, what's plugged next in the hole next to me here? That is the new NBN connection. For those non-Australia, Australia is finally getting into the 21st century. We have the National Broadband Network, so it's meant to be a national upgrade to our broadband infrastructure. It's been through a lot of crap in government, and the rollout has been controversial, and by that I mean controversially bad, delayed, and so on. But yeah, we finally got EMEA hooked up in my area, so I got it as soon as I could. I actually like it a lot. I mean, there are some issues with dropouts, but I've had one problem so far initially. But the main difference is my upload speed is like 5 times as much. It's why I'm streaming this right now. Originally, my streams have been a low quality because I've been on really bad internet. For a benchmark, a normal archery video might be around, let's say, a 10-minute video tutorial would be around 500 megabytes video size. Would take me around 30 to 45 minutes to upload. Now I make a video tutorial. Again, same file size. It takes around 1 minute to upload. I would normally upload and do the thumbnail while I'm uploading, but now I can't even, like, it's finished before I even open Photoshop. So that's a huge upgrade, and I'm really impressed. It could be faster, yeah, probably, but you know, it's not a bad thing. It's worked well for me. Let's see. Jeremy. Cosplay as Grizzly Jim. I have his shirt and his bow, so that would be kind of funny. Taylor still has my string. Yes, of course, I made that string. That was the I believe that was the green, white, and pink one. I think weird color scheme, but it's good. No, that was fun making. How's the stream working with NBN? It's actually, I don't have to tell you about the NBN. Ripper Man, Grizzly Stream, did you use it? The Grizzly strings, they're fun strings. I literally have Grizzly Jim strings. I'm not sure if you call them Grizzly strings because he makes his own strings, so I guess they're Grizzly strings. He sent me 3 strings. The strings are fine. They're great. They're well made. The ones I use because they're his old strings. But they're fantastic strings. You're buying quality. Like the material, you can buy the material anywhere. Like I could make the string. But would you buy a new string? Like a new string might be like poorly waxed and frizzled and fragile. But it's mostly the color options and guaranteed craftsmanship. But strings aren't hard to make. You just need some time. Leon Smith, hello. Watching live from the UK. Yeah, no, it's really nice talking about clubs because it's very hard to find support for archery clubs. Because look, for me, I became president of a small club and I didn't know what I was doing. I have some idea what I'm doing now, but it's nice to kind of share that experience. And any questions you want to ask about being in a club environment, just ask. I'm happy to talk about it. Have I touched the compound? But yeah, I've touched the compound. I've shot like a youth compound before, just for fun. But yeah, I've touched it. It just doesn't interest me. It doesn't give me that satisfaction. I'm not against compound, but not my sort of thing. But I wouldn't mind having that sort of thing. Hidden Village of Art. Hello, Jasmine. I'm surprised you caught on there. Check out the Hidden Village of Art for some tutorials and artwork. Some good stuff there. And I think that will end the stream. It's about 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is a interesting thing to have. But yeah, I love the camera. I'm gonna watch the stream a bit later on. I'm eating dinner, a very late dinner, but the camera looks fantastic. Definitely recommend it. If you're gonna buy a webcam, because the only webcam I've ever owned was like 10 years ago, and webcams were terrible back then. You only used for like Skype, and back then like you have really low res, like 360p res. Now it's like, hey, 1080p, 60 frames per second technology. I'm really impressed with this. So why the heck not? Good investment. Yeah, I think I'm gonna sign off. So we've reached the end of the questions. I haven't missed anything obvious that I want to answer, but otherwise, yeah, thank you for joining me on the stream. Again, this was more of a test. For those who just joined us, do check out the Fannie Bay Equestrian Club. That's been a very tragic incident, and something which the link to the fundraiser should still be there. If not, check the video a bit later. If you want to donate a few dollars to help the club out, then feel free to do so. It's again a big shame that the archery community doesn't really stand strongly against sort of thing. I think for a good reason. We tend to be distant and impersonal about our incidents, but if we're too passive, then the general community will get the wrong idea that archery indirectly condones it if they don't speak out against it. So it's our duty as individual archers to protect our sport and to ensure that this sort of thing and misconception doesn't spread. So hopefully the Equestrian Club gets something out of this, and hopefully you guys get something out of it as well. So feel free to post more questions in the comments. I am open to ideas as to what you would like me to live stream. I'm still open to things like lifestyle, philosophy, other things, teaching. I want to do a teaching vlog one day. It's something I can definitely do, but I don't want to just make me whinging about kids. There are certain things which are really big topic stuff for education in the 21st century. So that's something I'll eventually do. And who knows? I might, if I'm feeling bored, open a live stream, just do whatever. But anyway, it is really cool to talk to you guys around the world. Thank you for watching. This is New Sensei signing out, and I'll see you next time.